Here are 5.2 books that can change your life this year. Not 52, just 5.2. So years ago, I saw a study that said the average CEO reads 52 books a year. So I decided I want to make as much as CEOs make, and I want to read what they read. So I set off to do that. What happened was not what I expected. It was worse. I became fixated on the goal of hitting 52 books in a year and lost sight of the actual goal, which was learning what was in those books, what made those people so successful. I wasn't always a reader, and in fact, I didn't read my first full book until after high school. I nearly failed high school English because I was forced to read these books that I had no interest in, like Moby Dick or Shakespeare or whatever else. I don't know because I didn't read them. My interest lied in making money, becoming a business owner, an entrepreneur, becoming rich. So I was interested more in biographies of wealthy people like Howard Hughes or Steve Jobs or Warren Buffett. I've read thousands of pages of books from everything in personal finance, investing, entrepreneurship, psychology, and more. So let me save you the thousands of hours I've spent reading to hopefully get you some faster results. What makes a book truly life-changing? A book can be as simple as helping you learn a specific skill, or it can have a deeper impact. The books I'm going to share with you today go deeper. They're going to fall into one of 5 themes that I look for when picking out a book. Theme 1 is purpose. In this theme, we're going to be talking about a book I read every year because it's that good. I'm talking about Not Fade Away, A Short Life Well Lived by Lawrence Shames and Peter Barton. This book is about Peter Barton's life, and what a life it was. Peter was a media mogul. He was one of the pioneers in the cable television industry who would go on to found Liberty Media Group and channels like MTV. See, Peter knew how to take risks, and big risks. Peter and I have a lot in common, and maybe that's why I resonate so much with his story. In his 20s, he went up to Aspen to be a ski bum. He worked on ski patrol, and then he would go in the backcountry and huck himself off big cliffs and show off for the crowd. A lot of his competitors would go shoot off a cliff, 30, 40-foot cliff, without even scoping out the landing or what was below, and which obviously is a massive risk. So Peter knew that the main thing to consider was not necessarily the takeoff. He said it's not the leap that's dangerous, it's the landing. And this obviously goes really well with business. It's not necessarily jumping and starting something, it's how you land and how you prepare for what's below or what's ahead. He also says, seem reckless, but be prepared. Act crazy, but do your homework. Peter was born in the 50s as a boomer, and he would admit that he was one of the luckiest generations ever to live. When talking about money and the importance of money over other things, it was definitely below friends, family, and health. But when putting money into perspective, he made an interesting comment. He said, maybe the single best thing about having money is that it makes money seem a great deal less important. Every time I read this book, I get a sense of hope, but also urgency. Urgency to do the things I need to do and take the risks I need to take in order to make sure I live a life well lived, especially in a short period of time, given we never know when our last day is. In our conversations through the spring, Peter spoke of many things: ideals and disillusionment, the value of risk, the anguish and thrill of transitions. But the overriding theme was always the idea of becoming ready, ready to live, ready to die. Ready to change directions when change was necessary. Timeliness was everything. Opportunities were useful only to those who are prepared to seize them. Gifts were appreciated only by those whose minds were equipped to see their value, and nothing, not even death, is daunting to the person who is ready for it. Theme 2, entrepreneurship. In this theme, we're going to be talking about Anything You Want by Derek Sivers, 40 Lessons for a New Kind of Entrepreneur. Derek is a mentor of mine, and we had our first connection back in 2015 in an email exchange that would go on to change my life forever. I want to share with you that email exchange in just a little bit. Derek founded CD Baby back in 1998 to help fellow musicians sell their CDs online. Fast forward 10 years from there, in 2008, he was able to sell the company for over $20 million. Today, he spends his time hanging out with his son, writing books, and coding. Derek makes a big promise with his book. Anything you want, he says, from a book that has less than 100 pages. How do I get anything I want from a book that takes less than a day to read? Well, that's the power of Derek. He's able to take complex topics, take his perspective, his experience, and apply it and basically put it into a bite-sized piece that you can reference every day or read it within a full day if you want it to. Business is not about money. It's about making dreams come true for others and for yourself. Don't pursue business just for your own gain. Only answer calls for help. Starting with no money is an advantage. You don't need money to start helping people. Earlier I mentioned that Derek is my mentor, and he is. He just doesn't know it though. Through his writing, he's providing mentorship. Through his email communication. And this is what's cool. So back in December of 2015, I sent him an email. Now, the email I got because of his address that he put within his book. He gave his email address and he said he replies to all emails. I said, I'll give it a shot. Why not? So I sent him an email, and sure enough, he replied, I think maybe about a week or two later, and I was blown away. I was like, this is so cool. And he actually took some time and put some thought into his response. And he was genuinely interested. And we continued to email back and forth over the last 9 years. I didn't bombard him with emails. I just would send him an email every now and again saying, hey, the new book's cool. Here's what I'm up to. Anyway, life-changing for sure. Theme 3, curiosity. And what better book to define this theme than Curious by Ian Leslie, The Desire to Know and Why Your Future Depends on It. I've always considered myself a curious person. And even from an early age, when I would take electronics apart and try to figure out how they worked, and then I would try to put them back together, but sometimes they didn't go back together. The thing about curiosity is I really worry about not only our schools for my kids and how maybe that curiosity is not being stoked and in fact maybe being smothered. In 2004, the founders of Google, Larry Page and Sergey Brin, were in an interview and they were talking about people's curiosity and being able to fulfill people's curiosity in an instant, but almost talks about curiosity and squashing it. Let's listen. When you think about something and you don't really know much about it, you will automatically get information. All information gaps will be closed. Ultimately, I view Google as a way to augment your brain with knowledge of the world. Google aims to save you from the itch of curiosity altogether. Yikes. Now, I hope that's not true. Obviously, that's back in 2004. That was before YouTube even existed. Things have definitely changed a lot, but curiosity is really important, and it's something that we all need to keep stoking, even if there are solutions like Google, like YouTube, that allow us to find answers almost instantly. We still want to have that curiosity of how things work, go figure them out for ourselves, don't we? As adults trying to stoke our curiosity and continue expanding and learning, should we keep in our own niche or should we widen our knowledge base? There's this story of the hedgehog and the fox, and I wanted to share a little bit from the book. The fox evades the attackers in a variety of inventive but exhausting ways, while the hedgehog adopts one tried and trusted strategy, hunkering down and letting its spikes do the work. The fox knows many things, but the hedgehog knows one big thing. People like Steve Wozniak, they're a hedgehog. Steve Jobs is a fox. The thinker's best position to thrive today and in the future will be a hybrid of those two animals. Basically, how well are you able to work with other people in learning from their skill sets? And this goes from marketing to product management to development, design. How well are you able to understand the full process of the whole business and how it applies to your specialty and the thing you're really good at? Theme 4, persistence. The War of Art by Steven Pressfield. Break through the blocks and win your inner creative battles. Anyone who's starting anything, whether you're a writer, content creator, entrepreneur starting a new business, or even starting a new job, you need to read this book. Steven spends a lot of time in this book talking about resistance. Basically, this resistance to get started, writing a book, creating content, starting a business. When you talk about resistance and self-doubt can be an ally. This is because it serves as an indicator of aspiration. It reflects love of something we dream of doing, desire to do it. If you find yourself asking yourself and your friends, am I really a writer? Am I really an artist? Chances are You are. The counterfeit innovator is wildly self-confident. The real one is scared to death. As you look at resistance and the different types of resistance and ways to combat it, one of the ways is to become pro or go professional. Professionals treat things differently than amateurs do and how they handle it. One of the outtakes from the book as it relates to golf is play it as it lies. My friend the Hawk and I were playing the first hole at Prestwick in Scotland. The wind was howling out of the left. I started an 8-iron 30 yards to the windward, but the gale caught it. I watched in dismay as the ball sailed hard right, hit the green going sideways, and bounced into the cabbage. Son of a... I turned to our caddy. Did you see the wind take that shot? He gave that look that only Scottish caddies can give. Well, ye got to play the wind now, don't ye? The professional conducts his business in the real world. Adversity, injustice, bad hops, and rotten calls, even good breaks and lucky bounces all comprise the ground over which the campaign must be waged. The field is level, the professional understands, only in heaven. When you think about professionals in golf, you think about Tiger Woods. Professionals aren't afraid to ask for help, and neither is Tiger Woods. He's had multiple coaches over the years and continually looks for people to find his blind spots, to find the things that he's not seeing in his shot or his swing. Theme 5, Psychology. The Drive by Daniel Pink. When we think of why people do the things they do, we think of motivation. What motivates them to do it? There's an old concept that's called Motivation 2.0. The way to improve performance, increase productivity, and encourage excellence is to reward the good and punish the bad. Think of this as the carrot and the stick. One of the most life-changing things that came out of this book for me was understanding how intrinsically motivated individuals, like myself, maybe you, how we operate, what we crave. And it came down to 3 things. And I will always remember these 3 things: autonomy, mastery, and purpose. Autonomy, being the captain of your own ship. Every entrepreneur wants this. It's the ability to pick the projects that we work on, the people we work with. It's having the freedom to decide and choose and steer our own course and our own path. The course of human history has always moved in the direction of greater freedom, and there's a reason for that, because it's in our nature to push for it. And then there's mastery, the desire to get better and better at something that matters. In a study of 11,000 industrial scientists and engineers working at companies in the United States, found that the desire for intellectual challenge, that is, the urge to master something new and engaging, was the best predictor of productivity. Scientists motivated by this intrinsic desire filed significantly more patents than those whose main motivation was money, even controlling for the amount of effort each group expended. And lastly, there's purpose, doing something bigger, beyond ourselves, and making a contribution. Purpose provides that activation energy for living. To sum up autonomy, mastery, and purpose, it's doing something that matters, doing it well, and doing it in the service of a cause larger than ourselves. You can find a link to all the books I've mentioned in the description below. I may get a commission, but it doesn't cost you anything more, and it supports the channel, so I appreciate that. So what are the other 0.2 books that I mentioned in the 5.2 books in this title? This is going to be listening to audiobooks. Now, when you listen to audiobooks, I do this. I go for walks, I listen to Audible, I listen to podcasts, but it doesn't have the same impact. In fact, there are studies that show and prove this. A 2010 study found students who listened to a podcast lesson performed worse on a comprehension quiz than students who read the same lesson on paper. And the podcast group did a lot worse, not a little worse. Compared to the readers, the listeners scored an average of 28% lower on the quiz. That's about a difference between an A and a D grade. So reading a book is definitely better if you're trying to retain or comprehend what you've just read. But I do both, so that's why I applied a 0.2 to it as well. Another reason for the 0.2 and the 5.2 books is you don't need to finish the whole book. In fact, you can skip around. You can leave right in the middle of a book or after 10 pages. Nobody's keeping score. Okay, I lied. There's way more than 5 books that have changed my life or helped me make more money. But those are a good start. If you've read any of those books or picked some up because of this video, drop it in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. And if you're wondering what are some of the highest paid skills in today's economy, you're going to want to watch this video next.